The thing about Francis, though, is he has nuclear power. It's a totally different kind of power.
Yeah, so you get caught with one shot and you're fucked.
He's a 265-pound natural 6'5" man. I mean, Francis is a monster. And he hits people where you just sit there and go, Jesus.
Yeah.
Like the Alistair Overeem one is the best example. Like he hit Alistair Overeem with a left uppercut / hook where Alistair's head snapped so far back he was looking at his ankles. Like it was just crazy. That knockout was just like, Jesus.
Yeah.
That's what Francis has. And when he knocked out Stipe Miocic to win the title, like, ugh. And, you know, John has to be very, very, very aware of that. Francis has a giant striking advantage. Giant.
Yeah, it's wild when you see guys like grind through 5 rounds and they still get caught at the end with like one shot, and it's just that's all it takes.
Yeah, Kamaru Usman and Leon Edwards.
Yeah. Or like
my God.
The Pereira.
Yeah.
We were talking about that last year, and I was like asking what you thought how it was going to go. And yeah, can never fucking put your guard down or
not
be too careful with that guy. Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting thing. I mean, how much have you looked into the science of weight cutting?
Yeah, it's there are certain drugs you can use that I believe aren't banned that you can do like pretty hyper aggressive fat loss in short condensed time frames. And
like what drugs?
Like, have you ever heard of DNP?
No.
Dinitrophenol. It was used in explosives in World War I, and then they found out that after the workers were like creating the bombs, they were overheating and dying, and they figured out it was because it was being absorbed transdermally and increasing their metabolism so much that they were like internally overheating.
Whoa.
Yeah, and they marketed it as a fat loss agent for however many years in like I don't know, like decades ago, like almost a fucking 100 years ago at this point. And people started dying because it's very easy to miscalculate your dose or use like the lethal dose is not that far from the effective dose.
Oh, God.
And people were overheating and dying, and they took it off the market and it's become illegal. But as far as I know, I don't think they actually test for it in USADA. Like if you put in like their drug database 2,4-dinitrophenol, I don't think they test for it. And there are certain other things too, but like there are a lot of loopholes on, like, I don't even think they test for like stimulants outside of competition either, like amphetamines and whatnot.
Really?
Yeah, so there are like a lot of things you could do to like nuke your appetite, increase fat energy expenditure significantly, drop water weight potentially more aggressively, and cut harder than would otherwise be like naturally possible potentially. Yeah. So I don't necessarily think that he's doing all these things, but when you see a guy lose like fucking 60 pounds or something, you can only imagine he's looking for any loophole that...
What about stuff like semaglutide?
That as well. Yeah, that is...
Is that legal in USADA?
You could check easily. There's like, it's like UFC DRO, and you type in the database any drug name, and it'll say in competition, out of competition, allowed or not. I imagine GLP-1 agonists are not restricted because it's like used to treat type 2 diabetes or obesity at the higher dosages, and super effective. Yeah.
So does that just curb your appetite? Is that what that stuff does? Semaglutide
Yeah.
does?
So it basically makes you feel satiated way easier, essentially. Like your compulsion to eat is like so dramatically hindered that you're way more likely to stick to a diet. Like even individuals, like if you become a morbidly obese person, sometimes there are genetic predispositions at play for sure. But in addition, a lot of these individuals, they lack willpower to stick to a diet and like follow a well thought out like exercise regimen or whatever. Like to get to that point, many of them do lack the willpower necessary because they're just, you know, succumb to cravings and whatnot. And not every individual has the same like hunger, appetite, satiety feedback signals that, you know, the next guy might have who's super lean. And that's why they can walk around lean, because they just don't get as hungry. And these individuals, like even like the morbidly obese, really fat motherfuckers, they would end up losing like 30 pounds plus on average when they used this stuff, when they were testing it for type 2 diabetes, and they started ramping up the dose and found that there was like an obesity management dose that was like hyper effective for these guys to lose, you know, 30, 40 pounds, which is like very, very effective for managing, you know, hemoglobin A1C, fasting insulin levels, fasting glucose levels, and becoming far more healthy individuals as a result. But it's as a consequence of the weight loss. But these individuals would typically overeat otherwise, and they start using this drug, and all of a sudden they don't feel, you know, compelled to eat nearly as many calories.
Interesting.
So if you're like a fighter who's aggressively cutting, like you still have the same cravings as anybody else who's following a diet model of any sort, like trying to get the single digit body fat to step on a, you know, weigh in before fight night and you're water depleted or whatever. Like you can imagine you would just love to eat a piece of chocolate right now, or like anything. Like your cravings are through the goddamn roof because your body's feedback signals are screaming at you to eat nutrients.
Yeah.
So trying to like fight back against that with pharmacology would absolutely be useful.
Do you think that using semaglutide though would affect physical performance because of the diminished appetite? Is there any other sort of feedback loop that would let you, like maybe you wouldn't take in the nutrients that are necessary to have a good workout or something?
Potentially, like it. There we
Not
go.
prohibited. Yeah. Semaglutide in competition, not prohibited. Not prohibited out of competition.
This is something that is
interesting,
just being learned about, like in the health space, health and wellness, and actual like scientific community. Semaglutide has been known about for a long time because it was used to manage type 2 diabetes, but only more recently has it started to pick up steam and popularity for its effects on obesity, because all these crazy headlines started coming out about people losing 30, 40 plus pounds who otherwise couldn't. And as far as how it would affect a fighter's ability to assimilate nutrients, stuff like that, yeah, it like slows gastric emptying significantly, can cause like pretty intense GI issues, make you nauseous. Maybe you don't even want to eat the food that you need to eat if you're, kind of depends on what situation you're imposing on yourself. But yeah, like it's not a side effect free drug by any means. Like some people,
that would be significant. That would be a real problem, I would think. Don't you think?
Yeah, it depends on your individual response. Like, there are a lot of individuals using it. Like even Elon Musk uses it now.
What?
Yeah, he posted a tweet. It was like, somebody was like, hey, Elon, how are you so lean now? Or like, how'd you lose the weight? And he was like, fasting and Wegovy. And Wegovy is the branded 2.4 milligram increment of semaglutide. So it's like the highest dose you could be using.
Wow.
Yeah.